And I said to these four people, I was like, look, it's going to be purely rhetorical because I don't want to know your finances. But I said, like, if you don't have $1 million liquid net worth right now, like, so it can't be tied in your house. It's got to be like, if you can't look me in the eye and tell me that you can't just wire me $1 million for fun, then let's agree you don't have $1 million in net worth, like cash ready to go. And it's very uncomfortable, right? Because people don't talk about money like that. And so I didn't force them to say yes or no. I just said, like, if you don't have $1 million in net worth and you control the majority of these businesses, then I would argue that every quarter that when you close most businesses close their books every month, as they should. But I would say every quarter to these guys, what I said was every quarter until you have $1 million in net worth, I would challenge you to take 50% of the profits and bonus yourself out, and then use the other remaining 50% to reinvest back in the business. Partly because we do need you to reinvest in the business and help it grow. And partly because by extracting that profit, you're actually starting to remove the risk of your family and your friends. And actually what kind of happens when people go through this, like that first, we talk about it in the venture capital community a lot, but nobody ever talks about this publicly with businesses. The first $1 million of net liquid cash that any entrepreneur ever gets is the most life-changing money they'll ever have. Don't get me wrong. Every additional $1 million that they get obviously is worth it, right? But when people go from paycheck to paycheck or mortgage to no mortgage, like that first $1 million changes everything. And we can see as an industry on the venture side, we can see that founders and entrepreneurs that actually get to that point make way better long-term decisions for the business and for their employees than the alternative. To say this a different way, there is this narrative in the entrepreneurial community that hustle and grind and all these things are the hallmark of a good entrepreneur. That's what the narrative says, right? You watch enough Shark Tank, everything's about hustle and grind. And I've been working on this for 8 years, but the data suggests otherwise. The data suggests that, yeah, there's a time and place for hustle.
Yeah, it's a requirement to get started.
Right. It's what we call table stakes, right? I mean, you gotta you're going from 0 to 1. Somebody's got to do it, right? But then like the data suggests and proves, I should say, with financial returns, the sooner that the business can reward that founder or set of entrepreneurs that took that initial risk with like the ability to kind of get that first $1 million, the better they're going to perform long term. So I don't want to get like too nerdy, but the point is though, is that like managing people's stress, like an entrepreneur's stress, is a purely subjective thing. I'm sure if I put like a blood pressure monitor on you, I'm sure I could figure out like, I bet over the years that your stress level probably feels like it got less, I guess. But like, if we actually got $1 million out of the business and into your liquid net worth, like your stress level actually would go down much, much more. I'm not articulating this very well. I apologize. But the point is, though, is that like, we didn't start this conversation today talking about this topic or planning to talk about this topic, but I'm glad you were willing to talk about it. Because the other thing I said at PPS to some people was, I said, like, two things can't be true simultaneously. Like, in other words, there was this like one dinner I went to where there was a bunch of practice owners, and sure enough, like 3 glasses of wine in, they're all just talking trash about how thin the margins are and how the man is always sticking it to them in terms of reimbursements and all that. And, my thought on that is like, I said to the guy, it was men and women. But so when I say guys, don't kill me, guys. It's like, I mean that, guys and gals. But there must have been 30, 40 practice owners in that dinner, that big round table dinner thing. And I was like, look, respectfully, 2 things cannot be simultaneously true about the same thing. We can't in one breath say, oh my gosh, the default profitability of a private practice in this country is like single digits. You can't say that while simultaneously acknowledging the fact that private equity is in here buying up hundreds of practices around the country every month. Somebody's not operating off the complete picture here. And I don't think it's the private equity guys that have it wrong.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, and the reality is it makes you think too, like if those groups are in there, like they're not looking for single digit returns. And there's something they know about the industry that maybe because the practice owners are in a place where it's like, man, decreasing margins, stress, whatever, like you're just not making good business decisions. It's like trying to be, I remember this when I first started consulting independently, like the worst deals I put together, the worst terms, the worst clients, the lowest margin work when I was starving. I needed to make a deal or else, things were not going to happen. Many practice owners, I think, find themselves in that situation where they feel like, whether or not they do, they feel like the margins are thin and they're in this survival mode. And that means they take on, payer contracts they shouldn't take on. They don't adjust their schedule to accommodate payer mix. They don't, whatever it is, they feel like they need to treat more in the clinic to make up for it. They just make bad business decisions as a result. And I've done this too. Like, crap, I got to go out and I got to drum up business or whatever it is, whatever the decision is. Like, it's a poor strategic business decision, but because you feel like you're in survival mode, it's the only logical decision you see, right? And the private equity firms are looking at PT.
If you'd like to learn more about Strata PT and see how our EMR and RCM works, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo.